All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA props video. Going to be breaking down the top prop bets for Game 3 between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. Let's go ahead and get into it. And so we're going to start off this video with just doing a quick game preview of the game. And looking at it, guys, just in general, we're really not getting that many good prop bets. We're getting some decent ones. There actually are two bets on Underdog that I think are pretty decent edges. We'll touch on those. But starting with the PrizePicks board, we are going to see that's a pretty limited board as it sits. Now, looking at the game total, it is a pretty high-scoring game at 223.5, with the point spread being in favor of the Pacers winning again, which is definitely interesting to me. Obviously, they're the home team. I think that's part of the reason as to why they're the favorites. But it is an interesting thought process, I think, to just talk about with New York and basically celebrating a championship just for simply making the conference finals. It was always strange to me. And then like naming roads after players, very strange to me. And you think about it, did that put like too much strange pressure or just vibes on the team at home playing in those two first playoff games, which maybe allowed the Pacers to, kind of have those kind of dramatic wins, if you will? I could buy into that. It's definitely a little bit strange to me. I think it's worth noting. And so could we see what happened last night, as I kind of expected would happen, where the Timberwolves went out and just really worked the Thunder? Could the Knicks end up doing that? I do think so, but I do think partially the fact that the Pacers are at home, I do think it's a slightly different vibe, but at the same time, again, I do think maybe there'll be some like weight off their shoulders, off the Knicks' shoulders, not playing at home, not having that maybe additional stress of the whole city on them, if that makes sense. And so I could see New York winning this one. Again, with the Timberwolves, it just felt like a good spot for them to win. It felt like a spot where they're just going to win big, win solidly, I should say, and then it'll be a gentleman's sweep. I could see that end up happening here with the Knicks as well. Although I will say the Pacers and Knicks, they're basically the exact same team. And so maybe the Knicks get two straight. That also wouldn't be shocking. And so we go ahead and get into these top prop bets that we are getting for the Pacers. We are starting off with a bet that I don't know if I necessarily love. We are looking at the last two games for Pascal Siakam, where he has gotten the under rebounds here of 6.5. Okay, you got 5 in the first game, 5 in the second game, all while getting decently heavy minutes, 33 and 45 minutes. We look at the books that are coming in. We are getting some differing lines, like basically all telling us to bet the under, but like, for example, Fliff has it at minus 140. You look at FanDuel, minus 138. And so if we were just going off like the FanDuel line or the Fliff line, like, yeah, we'd be betting the under and feeling pretty comfortable that we were getting a plus EV bet there. The issue that I have here is that the projection data, the average, the VPM, all the other data points that we have coming in here are telling us to bet the over. And so this is like the best bet that we have for the game today. And it's a weird balancing act because, again, he has gotten the under twice, but given the fact that he has gotten the under twice and the data's kind of, besides Vegas, is telling us to bet the over, that's been the playoffs thus far. We don't have any lock and load bets really at all. Another interesting one is this Ben Shepherd one, 2.5 points. Okay, the issue with this is his minutes, right? 11 minutes. Now he ended up getting 13 in the first game and then 7 in the last. I don't want to bet on someone that we're not going to get that many minutes for. Okay, worth calling that out because that was one that was popping up. But yeah, I don't. It's a very risky approach because we can't predict his minutes. I always like to bet on players at the very least we can project and predict their minutes. So from there we have Obi Toppin, Pascal Siakam. Like, these are okay ones, but again, very tight board. Don't necessarily love them. It is worth calling out with Halliburton. We are getting a decent prop line difference between his fantasy score on PrizePicks and Underdog, 0.5. Okay, not much, but we are seeing that the line for PrizePicks is definitely a little bit too high in comparison to all the other data points that we have coming in. Okay, and so if you think the Knicks are actually going to win this game, kind of I don't want to say like I'm kind of indifferent about that. Whereas like yesterday, I was pretty much saying, yeah, this is like the Timberwolves to win is probably the best bet. Whereas this, I could see the Knicks winning this one. I don't want to say easily, but I think that is within the realm of possibilities. And maybe you could game script this bet with that, where you are betting on Halliburton for his under. And then maybe you would also be doing that with Siakam for his under as well. Again, a slight prop line difference here, but nothing too crazy. I don't know if I necessarily want to get there with Siakam, but it's just a tighter board here for the Pacers. Now, we'll go ahead real quick and seeing if we're getting any hammer bets or great bets. We're getting some great bets. Halliburton, front of his fantasy scores one. And then Andrew Nembhard with his rebounds and assists here. Now, he's actually someone where we are getting an interesting line on Underdog, and I want to call this one out. I'm going to start with showing you guys that on PrizePicks at 14 points and assists is what they have this line currently at. Whereas if we look at the line on Underdog, they currently have this at 13.5 points and assists. Not a bad little bet there, I would say. And so for like example purposes, like on Pick 6 right now, they have this at 14.5. He does have a good hit rate on this for the season, about 53%. Over the last 10 games, though, 80% hit rate. Over the last 20, 65% hit rate. Obviously been playing well. Not a terrible bet, but also not like anything we need to go crazy with. But that, again, that's the board that we have. If we can get those slight prop line differences and advantages there, we want to be taking advantage of them if we can, if we are betting on this single game slate. All right, so now we go ahead and jump on into the Knicks. We are getting Jalen Brunson for over his rebounds and assists of 10.5 as a bet. That's a decent bet, 53% likelihood to hit. All the data points are telling us to bet the over. It has gotten the over, 50% thus far this matchup. I don't know. He's been interesting for sure. Thus far this series. There's really only one line where it's a little bit different. That's ESPN Bet. So if you guys are actually someone that bets on ESPN Bet, that's a very good bet there at minus 110, where all the other lines basically have it at minus 135. So I think that's a pretty good bet. And really, if you guys are just looking for two simple bets with what the data is, with what Vegas is telling us, not going to be like in a plus EV bet in terms of long-term profitability, but Jalen Brunson over 10.5 rebounds and assists, and then Pascal Siakam under 6.5 rebounds. Two of the better bets that we have. Again, I wish it was 54% likelihood or better to hit. That's just not the board that we have today. I can't control that. I can just control the information I give you guys based off of those bets. Another interesting bet is Josh Hart and his over rebounds potentially. Okay, so he only had 29 minutes in the last game, but 44 in the first game. If he gets closer to the minutes that he's projected to get right now, I do think there's a good chance that he does get to 8 rebounds, and I would be favoring the over. This has been kind of the theme thus far this postseason, is that we are chasing a lot of bets that are highly likely to be pushes. And so obviously what I mean by that is we see some of the lines here are at 7.5, favoring the over pretty heavily. A lot of the other lines are actually at 8.5, favoring the under pretty heavily. Okay, and so I think this is a decent one. If you're looking for a 3-slip bet, then again, I think we can get there. The pain of Mitchell Robinson recently, guys, okay, where the best bets that we were getting with him were these under fantasy score prop bets for the first 2 games that did not hit, basically because he had a good first quarter. If you want to bet on Mitchell Robinson to have a good first quarter, if you're looking for some first quarter prop bets with him, I actually don't mind that. You could do that because in the second half, he's been pretty bad. Now, the minutes are important to call out. Okay, he has been getting some heavy minutes thus far. And so if he does get back to closer to his average, which is what he's projected to get about 18, then yeah, we are probably favoring some of his under. So this under 15.5 points, rebounds, and assists is definitely an interesting line. You would argue he probably is due to have a poor first half, just given the fact that he has dominated thus far in the first halves. And then from there, any other bets? We are getting some decent ones like OG to get over 5 rebounds, basically the exact same thing. We're pretty good chance to be a push. Do you really want to target a bet that has a pretty good chance to be a push? That's up to you. Jalen Brunson, big prop line difference here, guys. Big prop line difference. And so if you want to be betting on his over on Underdog, I could get behind that. So on Underdog, they have this set at 44.35 for his fantasy score. On PrizePicks, 46, right? That is a pretty massive edge. That is something that should not be happening. And actually, if you take that line of 44.35, he has actually gotten that over 2 for 2 thus far this series. That's important to call because at 46, he has not. He's gotten that over once. Okay, so those slight prop line differences do add up in the long term in terms of creating an advantage. And so again, I just want to call that out. Probably won't be betting on the under on PrizePicks, but I think that's a good under bet there, good over bet on Underdog. Then slight prop line difference with Towns there as well. So in simple, guys, I do think we have a kind of decent edge here for Underdog purposes, where we can run out this 2-slip bet there. And Underdog, again, taking advantage of that slight Jalen Brunson prop line difference that we have. And then going with the Aaron Naismith over 3.5 points and assist. Again, just more taking advantage of the slight prop line difference that we have. Now, it is worth calling out. If you think he's going to struggle, the pick 6 line is at 14.5. You could just be betting on the under there as well. Okay, I did want to call that out. And then on PrizePicks, guys, I am just going to be running this one up because we're already getting action for Jalen Brunson for some of his overs. I mentioned the rebounds and assists of 10.5 you could run out there on PrizePicks. Because I'm already getting action to it on Underdog, I'm just going with this bet for PrizePicks. Josh Hart over 8 rebounds, again, decent chance to be a push. And then Siakam under 6.5 rebounds. Don't necessarily love that, but it is the best bet that we have for the game via the Sports for Gods. And so we're just going to take that. It kind of is what it is. And then as well, I don't have a specific bet of the day for better guys, but it is worth calling out. We are getting those 2 discounts as well. Yesterday, I ended up putting out on Twitter or X and then on the Discord that I did like Naz Reid over his points and rebounds of 17.5 that ended up hitting. And that was kind of nice to get that bet throughout the day because I mentioned like, yeah, we're going to bet on his under fantasy score. That's the best bet that we have, but I don't necessarily love that. I would rather chase his overs. And so that was nice that that bet was presented to us to be able to place with the better discounts. Again, if you guys want access or if you guys are interested in signing up for better, make sure to use the link in the description below. Simple and easy way to help out the channel. Whenever you guys use that link to sign up, that does kick back money to the channel. So again, simple and easy way to help out the channel. But that's going to do it for today's video. If you guys want access to any of the tools that you did see in this video, make sure to head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to all of those tools for just $10 a month. Best value out there. Appreciate you guys. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.